Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Today, we are diving into a critical discussion about turning groundbreaking ideas into real-world solutions. My name is Aisha Al-Atigi, and I am proud to be here on behalf of the Mohammed bin Zayed Water Initiative, which envisions a world where water is more accessible, affordable, and sustainable for all. I would like to thank the Water for Climate Pavilion for hosting us today, and for our esteemed panel of experts for joining us to share their expertise and perspective in addressing this challenge. On the stage with me today is Jason Morrison, head of the UNGC CEO Water Mandate, Emily Kelly, Blue Carbon Action Partnership Lead at the World Economic Forum, Idris Malai, Director, Water Resilience Tracker at the Alliance of Global Water Adaptation, AGWA, Professor Samuel Sheng Mao, co-chair of the UAE University's Climate Network and Director of Aspire Research Institute for Sustainability, Khalifa University, Reem Al-Mansouri, Future Sustainability Leader, Y4S. Before we dive in to how we accelerate the development and deployment of innovations to address water challenges, I think it's important to set the stage. While when we think of innovation, our thoughts might first initially take us to labs and science and technology, today we also want to touch on innovative approaches on how to include and engage all stakeholders in addressing this crucial topic. Everybody here understands that water scarcity represents an urgent threat to global security and prosperity. It has been estimated that around 72% of the global population face water security issues, with around 8% of the global population facing critical water insecurity. With our growing global population and our warming planet, we are looking at a 40% gap between supply and demand. And this in turn puts the progress of all the 17 sustainable development goals at risk. New solutions are urgently required to address this issue, and the investment and innovation will play a fundamental role in making them a reality. Or to put that in the language of our session today, out of the lab and into the field. This goes right to the heart of our mission at the Mohammed bin Zayed Water Initiative, which was founded earlier this year in February. We are committed to helping address global water scarcity by accelerating the development and deployment of breakthrough technologies and by elevating the importance of water scarcity on the global agenda. With our focus on accelerating water technology, we have partnered up with the XPRIZE Foundation and launched XPRIZE Water Scarcity, humanity's largest ever prize. The prize purse is $119 million that was made possible by $150 million investment by the Mohammed bin Zayed Water Initiative. The 5-year competition is designed to accelerate the development of reliable and sustainable desalination systems that reduce the economic cost that would make them more accessible to the low and middle income nations. We know that there is no silver bullet to address the issue as complex water scarcity and that the various solutions will be required. And that is why I'm looking forward to hearing from our diverse panel of experts today. So with that in mind, I think it's about time that I open this discussion by asking our esteemed panel of experts to introduce themselves and provide the audience with a background of their work.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Morrison. I serve as the president of the Pacific Institute, a 37-year-old not-for-profit policy research organization focused on water and climate. And I also serve as the head of the CEO Water Mandate, which is a partnership between the UN Global Compact and the Pacific Institute that focuses on corporate water stewardship. The Seal Water Mandate started in 2007. We now have just under 400 members that sign up to 6 commitments around water management and then annually report their progress therein. About 5 years ago now, a subset of our membership that were really interested in accelerating the action on water formed a coalition called the Water Resilience Coalition. And I'm going to talk a bit about how our strategies within the WRC, which is what we call it for short, are accelerating innovations in 3 areas. It's not just about the technological innovation, Aisha, as you had mentioned. It's about innovating the way that we finance water solutions to scale, and also the way that we innovate in the way we collaborate, both at the global level, but the way that translates and nests down to the local level, which requires new structures for working together if we're going to have impact at scale. And there are quite a few in the private sector that are really recognizing that they have a role to play, but they're really only going to be able to have that impact in these water-stressed regions if they work with their peer businesses, their public sector counterparts, and civil society organizations as advisors and implementing partners.
Thank you. Hello, Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm Idris Maliar. I'm the director of Water Resilience Tracker. Water Resilience Tracker is a project under the Just Transition for Water Security program of the FCDO or UK funded project. So in the Water Resilience Tracker, our assumption is that if we are succeeding in climate agenda, the water role must be recognized in this sphere. So our goal is to work with water in the national climate document. So actually the Water Resilience Tracker is a framework or a questionnaire with a guiding document that we look through different national documents like the NDCs, the National Adaptation Plans, the National Development Plans. So these are our gateways in the country at the very national level where we apply the Water Resilience Tracker framework, which is more than 120 questions, and we look through those questions and evaluate each and investigate each of those documents to find the synergies, to the plus point, the good points, and to find the gaps and the problems on those documents, and then connect those documents one to another to create a coherence kind of policy space for that. So the tracker itself is applied or divided in 4 sections. That first we see the water in those documents. For instance, some of the documents, they did not even mention the water, but we see climate change impacts us through water. That's the main medium of the climate change impact. If we see it through drought, through floods, through sea rise level rises, and through different moods of it. But having that, on the other side, you see there's no mention of water. So we look into those documents to see whether water is mentioned as a risk or not, whether water is mentioned as a sector or not, and how we these documents use water as a resource to kind of combat with the climate change to further mitigation as well as adaptation side. And then the second section of the work is to see the institutional and governance structure of those government setups that we are working with, that how they are connected and how they are working. And then we see water within each sector. For instance, we see the energy, agriculture, industry. As an example, one of our questions is like, if in the energy mix of a country, if hydropower is there, whether the question of water uncertainties are mentioned or not. Have they thought about the water changes and uncertainties in those documents? So that's basically the way we apply the tracker. And the fourth section is the most connecting those documents to the finance pathways. Whether you have a document, whether that will result in a bankable project or result in a way that you can change it to an actionable item. So that's where the tracker comes. And I don't know how much time we have, if I can go more in detail, but that's in this sphere that we are working to show the water role in the climate documents. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emily Kelly. I work in the Ocean Action Agenda at the World Economic Forum, and today I'm here on behalf of my colleagues in our freshwater community, as well as our innovation community, Uplink. So I think just briefly noting that, of course, as we discussed at the outset, and as everyone present is thinking about, water is essential for our human prosperity, and ecosystem health and economic development are a component of that. We either have too much or too little or too polluted, it seems. And so these pieces, also being exacerbated by climate change and biodiversity loss, pose significant challenges to our water security. Significant business interest in sustainable water management arises from its role in safeguarding operations and enhancing future resilience. Industries from agriculture and technology to financial services and mining face increasing water-related pressures and risks, including asset protection, business continuity, regulatory compliance, and process innovation. Despite calls for innovative water use and supply chain accountability, policy often falls short of creating the necessary environment for change. Collaboration between business and government is needed to bridge significant infrastructure gaps, scale innovative solutions, and build resilience to climate-related shocks and stresses. With the road to the UN Water Conference in 2026, it's a pivotal time for public-private collaboration on fresh water, and the World Economic Forum is looking forward to providing a platform to support this effort. To come in official announcement upcoming in Davos in January of this year at our annual meeting, we'll be introducing the Water Futures Community, which is a community driving essential foresight and partnerships to support this mission. This Water Futures Community is a multi-stakeholder platform for the next generation of solutions that addresses emerging systemic water challenges by fostering public-private partnerships and advancing the global water agenda through thought leadership, innovation, and collaboration. Water Futures collaborates with World Economic Forum initiatives, and it advances the global water agenda by integrating existing and emerging multilateral processes and goals, leveraging private sector expertise to contribute to global agreements. It aligns and elevates the ambition of thought leaders and experts, such as the Global Commission on the Economics of Water. So please do mark your calendars in January for hearing more about this initiative, and also looking forward to connecting with any of you if you'd like to learn a little bit more about what's to come. I also wanted to briefly share, if I may, I'll take one more minute to share a little bit more about our aquapreneur community. These are innovators that are in the water space on our platform Uplink, which is the World Economic Forum's innovation platform to serve connections, support, and amplification for innovators from across the world. All of those innovators coming to support UN Sustainable Development Goals. And so, of course, water is central to this. I just wanted to note that our Aquapreneur Innovation Initiative is a 5-year, $15 million water initiative between $50 million water initiative between HCL, Uplink, and the Forum's Food and Water team, and it was launched in Davos in May of 2022. Its ambition is to source 50 trailblazing water startups and build a first-of-its-kind water innovation ecosystem. As of July 2024, we're now in year 3 and focused on driving investment further. And happy to speak a little bit more about some of those wonderful innovators who are connecting the pieces and hoping to really shape our water systems moving forward. It's lovely to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Emily. Hello, I'm Dr. Samuel Mao, and as Asia introduced, I'm wearing 2 hats. As the director of Aspire Research Institute for Sustainability, we are developing renewable technologies, in particular, the renewable in generation, storage, and utilization. And for the utilization, we have solar-based technologies for improving efficiency and reducing costs for desalination. That's one example. And as co-chair of the UAE's Universities Climate Network, it is a network of 35 universities of UAE. And by starting this network, we are now coordinating all universities' activities related to climate change. And this network has the 4 pillars: the research innovation, the first one, the youth student engagement, the second one, the communal activation activities, the third one, and the campus sustainability, that's the fourth one. And the water-related activities are covered in all these pillars. I'm going to brief a little bit more, give you more information in the next few minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Reem Mansouri, Youth Representative of Future Sustainability Leader Program. It's basically one of the master initiative. I came from political economy and development background, where most of my work is international affairs, development projects like Sovereign Wealth Fund, and also humanitarian aids. Let's take a humanitarian as area specifically. So since the session is about water desalination, water scarcity, I would like to focus on water desalination because from a very humble perspective, and recently as someone who just joined climate change advocator, I believe that water scarcity is just a reflection of water desalination. And in order to eliminate this issue, you must go back to the roots. Invent something related to water desalination to increase that quality. And back to the point of humanitarian area, so I would like to invent something related to how we can enhancing the water desalinations for the conflict zones to increase the quality of our contribution in the humanitarian aid. Specifically, desalination plans for the conflict zones. And definitely I will give more details in the upcoming questions.
Thank you so much, Reem. So I have a few questions for our panelists today. We'll start off with Dr. Sam. Khalifa University is the home of the Center of Membrane and Advanced Water Technology, CMAT. It focuses on research to tackle water scarcity. I'd like to know more how that works in practice and how CMAT is contributing to advancing our knowledge and enabling water innovation.
Yes, indeed. CMAT is a flagship water-based technology development centers of the UAE. In particular, as from name, that it develops cutting-edge technologies for membranes, for water treatment, for desalination. And beyond that, it has developing technologies for other areas related to water. I just use one example. For example, our director happened to be Shadi, is sitting in the audience. His team developed, I think, one of the most efficient solar-based membrane distillation technologies. And this will be by developing certain new materials, nanotechnologies. For example, the solar thermal, the photothermal, hydrophobic, more technical word, the nanotubes, implement these new technologies into traditional membranes to improve the salt rejection rate, improve efficiency, and potentially lower cost. This is just one example. But as a co-chair of the University Climate Network, I think I also want to highlight a few other technologies developed recently by universities across the UAE. For example, New York University, NYU Abu Dhabi, they developed 3D printing technologies for certain membranes for better wastewater treatment. The UAEU, they modeled and predicted the groundwater variations using AI, artificial intelligence. And in Dubai area, the American University, Dubai, they actually try to quantify the water loss by evaluating the agricultural crop data and predict what would be the future water need, the demand, based on the growing water production needs. And of course, myself, under the support of the UAE's EAA, we have developed actually a year ago. I think we built the very first entirely solar-powered, fully off-the-grid, the water production from air system, which has been running more than 1 year today without any issue. I think there are 2 points I want to make of all these innovations. The first is the researchers, from my interaction with all of them, that they are looking at the problems, trying to solve technical problems from multidisciplinary areas, fields, that is breaking the traditional boundary of fields. Not only traditional boundary fields of physics, chemistry, or mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, these are all mixed. The second point is every innovations, breakthroughs in water technology or beyond technology-wise, water management innovations are made by the youth, the young people, undergraduate students, grad students, and young postdocs. And these are, I think, two key points in the further development innovation of the water technologies.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sam. My second question is for Jason and Emily. What actions are needed to ensure that the issue of water scarcity receives the right level of attention and investment?
So I'm going to take this question from the perspective of the business community. I had mentioned the initiatives that I've worked on through the CEO Water Mandate and the Water Resilience Coalition. And I think the way that we are starting to think about it and talk about it with the business community is the need to accelerate the response to the impacts of climate change on water systems. And I think the business community is uniquely positioned to accelerate the investments and the actions around water and innovation through two different mechanisms. One is through their own unilateral actions and their own value chains, but the other is through the architecture of collaboration, which is organized by shared long-term goals. So let me talk about both of those. Global business is good at many things. One of the things that it's most effective at is scaling success. In other words, once something is proven to work in a particular site or a particular location, the ability for the company to scale that across the enterprise quickly is a success factor for business. So once a technology or an approach to water that's innovative is proven to work in one or two basins, relatively quickly as compared to other segments of society, these companies can get that across their operations globally. So when you're working with companies like Coca-Cola or PepsiCo that have operations and supply chains in more countries than the UN, that's a pretty fast way to have impact quickly. The second is around the architecture of shared goals. And this is a little more complex. So late in the afternoon, midway through COP29, bear with me. So the Water Resilience Coalition is organized by having shared goals around water for 2030. And we have two sets of goals. One is to have collective positive water impact in 100 water-stressed basins. And the second is to enable climate resilient water access and sanitation and hygiene for at least 300 million people. Why is the goal important? Well, the goal is important, first of all, because it elevates the ambition. You can't move incrementally and achieve big goals like that. You need to start thinking about new ways of having impact at bigger scales and more quickly, and setting time-bound, quantifiable goals helps you do that. The second way that this is powerful is that when we define collective water impact in these basins, we're talking about three aspects of water: water quantity, the supply-demand balance in basins; water quality, and enterprise and business has a big impact on water quality; and the third is access to water. So WASH, the acronym is in the water sector. And when you have a global goal that lands in 100 basins, you'll need to be able to tailor it to local conditions. What is more pronounced in India than in Venezuela, than in central states of US? And through an architecture that's global to local, you can do that tailoring, but you can also cross-pollinate what works in one region versus another. You don't have to just reinvent the wheel. You can draw on successes. So if you have a really good collaboration that's proven to work in India, that's been led by a company like Gap Inc. and USAID, which enabled WASH, water access, sanitation, and hygiene for over 2 million people. Through our scaling approaches in the Water Resilience Coalition, we have now brought another 5 companies into that and are replicating that to multiple basins in India. And through our partnership with UNICEF, we think we can bring that to Indonesia and Sub-Saharan Africa, using the same success criteria, the same model of approach and governance and impact measurement. So this is the way in which what you're doing in one part of the world with organizations that have a global view can cross-pollinate quickly to other parts of the world and without reinventing that wheel and drawing on those successes. I want to talk a little bit more about finance, but I know I've used my time, so I'm going to cede it now. But if we can have time to come back to finance, I'd like.
Always good to talk about finance, which is how all the things happen, right? I will just I have that lucky position of saying I will plus one what Jason just shared. The forum is also deeply connected with government partners, corporate partners in thinking about this issue and making sure that it's at the top of the agenda. Oh, thank you. And so in addition to the corporate communities that we engage, I wanted to note that there's also the cross-pollination of water across multiple agendas. And one of those that's top of mind for me is also Blue Foods. Just noting that as we think about where we're sourcing our fresh water, as well as where we're sourcing highly nutritious and local foods, there's a great connect to be made there. So I think in ways that we can be connecting different agendas with one another, having water be integral to all of them is one additional opportunity.
Stay the mic with you, Emily. I have a question. How can we overcome some of the logistical, economical, and technical realities of scaling up water technology and water solutions?
Well, I think the people on this panel are so wonderful because so much innovation that's happening here, and just very inspired by your opening remarks to talk about how we can start to do some of that through wonderful initiatives, such as the one that you're leading. So I maybe would echo some of those words, and also speak to how there are a lot of different partners that are ready to take the innovations that those on this stage could share, much as Jason was pointing to, and take them and scale rapidly. I know that from our side, from the uplink side of things, we've had a number of different innovators that have made direct connects with the broader World Economic Forum community of partners, and now they're able to connect their innovations with corporates that are able to do similar scaling to exactly as Jason mentioned. So I would say one of those major vehicles is there. The other is in connecting with government partners and making sure that there is policy and regulation in place that's able to get the most, able to engage and drive finance into those that are really raising the bar. So as opposed to being regulation free and perhaps not having the same, not being able to reward those who are raising the bar, I think we need to be talking with government partners as we all collectively are looking to engage in water more deeply together. So just.
Thank you, Emily. Jason, you wanted to also add to that.
Yeah, so different stakeholders are motivated differently. With the business community, there's a profit motive that is highly motivating. And so typically, if a technology is proven to make business sense, if it improves the bottom line or the triple bottom line, it's going to go to scale. So a partnership that we have with the European Space Agency is a case in point for how this works. So in COP26, we signed an MOU with the European Space Agency, ESA, to innovate around space-enabled technology. So this isn't just satellites, but all technologies that are enabled by space technology. And so they created a RFP to digitize water resilience, and we worked with our members to put forward companies that they were working with, tech startups that they were working with on water that could apply for this funding, because there was promise potentially in these technologies going to scale. ESA liked this model because if those companies are already working with companies, that means there's the precursor to market demand, right? ESA doesn't want to be funding a bunch of tech startups that have no market demand for what they're doing. Through this process, we had 12 companies apply. 8 got funding from ESA to the tune of 4 or 5 million total. And 2 of those companies, one for sure, are now moving from the pilot phase to the implementation phase. So this is a way that you can move from that early stage, beginning of companies that are working with the business community, to something that can go mainstream through proven success with their corporates. Now, from our perspective, from the Water Resilience Coalition, to the degree to which these new startups can help improve data and information that helps us understand whether we are having positive water impact in the 100 basins. That's how we're interested in working with these tech startups, because that monitoring and evaluation and that approving and decision making around water, we think will ultimately drive the investments and the actions that are needed to see the changes that we're looking for.
Thanks. You've shared information on kind of the Water Resilience Coalition and how it can play a role in addressing water scarcity. But I'd like to know, do you anticipate seeing more entities setting near-term goals of their own?
Yeah, so to be clear, all of the companies that work in the Seal Water Mandate or in the Water Resilience Coalition have their own enterprise level goals. So that for their own, whether it's water and nature or water and social equity, however they're structuring their own targets and the programs that support those targets are left to the companies to do. We provide some technical assistance, and those targets will change depending on what kind of industry sector. So if you're an apparel company, a lot of the water footprint is in your supply chain. It may go all the way back to cotton sourcing. And so it's left to the company to figure out where the biggest impacts and dependencies are on water, and then how to circle targets to minimize those risks and impacts as they see fit. Where we think the powerful unlock is around having shared goals for water. Because if you think about it pragmatically, even if I am an energy provider in a particular river basin, at best, I'm maybe 1 or 2% of annual withdrawals in that basin. And so that company acting alone is not going to improve the water resilience or the water security of that basin. If I am the most progressive agri-biz company that is in an aquifer system that is being overdrafted massively and annually, it doesn't matter if I have projects to replenish my water footprint, because the groundwater will still be overdrafted. You need, therefore, to start moving into constructs, collaboratives that share a shared goal of by 2025, we're going to have supply and demand, or the draw in the aquifer system, come into balance. That's the only way that ultimately you're going to get to places where you can change conditions. There's no one company otherwise that can do it alone. If you'd add in.
Thank you, Jason. Moving on to Idris, my question is, water is widely recognized as being the forefront of many climate disasters. To mitigate and adapt, we need to also embrace policy innovation. So what insights is the Water Resilience Tracker providing to mitigate and adapt to climate change?
So what has been done through the Water Resilience Tracker, we have been in 10 countries so far, and we have worked closely with them. And as I said, our entry points are the NDCs and NAPs and these national documents. And through them, we kind of recognize and highlight the role of water. And what we have done so far is to, like as an example of change, that in Costa Rica, for instance, the Water Resilience Tracker was able to revise the entire NAP, National Adaptation Plan of the country. And now currently we are working with Brazil, that they are working on their NDC, and that's where the tracker comes in and support with the development of their NDC. So these are the stuff that currently happening at the policy level, but how these works can kind of draw back to or support the financing part of the work for the governments. Our focus at the moment is more towards making them enabled to reach those financial mechanisms that already exist. For instance, through our partner Deltares, we have created they have created a training manual or training program that trains the government how to develop a water resources project for the Green Climate Fund. So that's something that we are helping in the second phase, working with the country, so they are trained and they are able to submit the right proposal and concept notes for the GCF, GIF, or others. But that's not the only thing. I think what I hear from the panel members is that mostly bringing the private sector would be something we will focus on more in phase 2 of the project.
Thank you so much. So today on our panel, we've heard from representatives from the academia, we've heard some kind of reference to the aquapreneurs, large corporations, NGOs, and now we want to move into our youth and some sound from our youth. So if we move on to Reem, Reem, your innovation is looking specifically at access to water in conflict situations where the needed for simple and immediate implementation is urgent. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, absolutely. But before I answer a question, I would like to give a brief description about the idea.
Okay.
How we can deliver desalinated water to the conflict zone. Very complicated, like a rocket science. How? So it is started this way. So as we know that in conflict area, usually the first thing targeted is the heavyweight project like infrastructure, transportation, energy system, and desalination plants, because they are aware that there's more than 6 million to 7 million are relying on that. So how we kind of protect the water desalination instead of just having the regular one, the water desalination planets and the mobile desalination planet that usually is temporary solution, because I believe it's not sufficient. We need to work on inventing something that more practical, that we can ensuring the permanent access to the instance people in the conflict zone, and very hard for the occupation or militiat parties to distinguish and destroy it. And here's the idea come. So this idea is looking for governmental acts, is looking for a regional partnership, and is looking for international organization protection. It starts with our governmental acts. This idea needs to first meet an alliance with the foreign policy. Two, the regional partners usually play a crucial role on implement this idea honestly. It starts with the countries. For example, let's take country A located in Mediterranean Sea or in the zone, and for example, close to a country that are in conflict zone. How we can ensure the access. We will sign contract with a country that have sharing the borders with this Mediterranean Sea, that straightforward to the country that having the border, and then build this desalination in the border of the country, and then connected with the straightforward pipelines to deliver desalinated water straightforward. Very hard to find it. Is like a protection. This is one of the way, by the way, we use it to protect the oil during the delivering from any attack by put it under the water. And regarding, definitely it's very complicated. There's a logistics competition, there's logistics challenges, there's a legal, absolutely, we want to avoid breaking any of the international United Nations principle rules, and also avoiding breaking or attack the state's sovereignty. This is definitely, this idea is very complicated to implement it, but I always believe there is a space to improve. This idea needs first to break it down, involve more people from a diverse background, engineers, policies, leaders, lawyers, or expert international field, specifically organizations, to give us comprehensive results and respective, because I believe this idea have 100% successful, however, and it can make a radical change, but very complicated, very hard. From the beginning, I can tell that may take 10 years, 5 years, but I believe, by the way, if you're asking about the technical part, I believe this is the easiest part, because there's absolutely some recommendation I made for the top factors we can collaborate with them. But first, we need to think about how we can implement it. We need to ensure our regional partner, and absolutely, yes. And I believe we need to enhancing the desalination innovation in order to avoid the water scarcity.
Thank you, Reem. And this brings us to the end of today's session. A huge thank you to our incredible panelists, and let's keep pushing and turning these ideas into action. Thank you so much. Thanks. Oh, it's actually called tele. Exactly, and I think with the black and white font, it's much easier as well to read. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We have a bilateral meeting.
I think
set up?
so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it tomorrow or
I propose a group photo.
But I think
Yeah,
probably
sure.
one day at a time?
Yes.
but,
Yeah, yeah.